Before you watch this video, I'd like to give you fair warning. I didn't like the end results. I made the 1862 Vogue pattern, which is an absolutely gorgeous dress, and I thought I could make it gorgeous as well. But I'll tell you up front, what happened is I measured the pattern and I thought it was going to be too small for me, so I ended up adding 3 inches around the waistband. I'll scoot over here so I'll put in a picture. I added 3 inches around the waistband, the front on the fold, and also the back mid-band. And I think this was a fatal error because the pattern I think would have fit me without adding all that extra seamage. Another thing I didn't like about it was the fact that I made the shorter version, and that was really because I was trying to do a mock-up, and the mock-up definitely wasn't something I would ever wear. So I did like the gathering of this pattern, and I think if I hadn't had such material up front, it would have turned out really nice. I also like the style. The sleeves turned out pretty well, but I think I failed again on the fabric choice. So if I am to make this again, it's going to be a while, I would try some different fabrics. I filmed most of the making of this dress. It's a pretty, not easy, but it's a pretty quick sew. So if you're like interested in sewing videos, want to follow along on my process and see a garment made, even a failed garment from start to finish, go ahead and watch. I'd be happy if you did. But if you don't like it, go ahead and pass right away. So I will put a link to the finished garment at the end, the reveal, so that you don't have to waste your time if you don't want to. All right, do I sound really positive now? I've made some other outfits that I am really happy about, so we're allowed to have a failure or two once in a while. All right, thanks.
That is the bodice number 1 piece. First, what you have to do is you see that center dot. You have to stay stitch that upper edge of the bodice, and then actually you have to clip to that large circle. You can see the strange shape of the top of the bodice, and there's that hole. I am trying to figure out where to clip it. Oh wait, no, first I'm clearing off the little threads from my stay stitching, and then I'm just going to clip it right there. The next step is to gather all of that on each side. So you gotta go ahead and switch your machine to a gathering stitch and go ahead and gather. You'll start to see why that hemline is, the bodice front is shaped like it is, because once you see these gatherings pulled together, those 2 shoulder seams start to appear in the right location. Now it looks like a top. Make sure your gathers are even. You won't need to worry about them for a long time because you actually put on the collar after you're done putting the dress together. The next step is to get the skirt front number 2, which is this piece that goes down your middle front, and that right there, those pieces go around your waist. It's basically the same procedure. Go ahead and stay stitch by the dot. And now you're actually supposed to read the instructions some more so you can figure out what you're doing. I believe here is more stay stitching and all the way down the sides, and then you are ready to put in your panels number 3 on each side. So my panels are pink, and you just clip them. I like using the clips instead of pins because it's easier to flip on and off when you are using your sewing machine. Pay attention to the way I put in the clips. You'll see a big mistake I made shortly. So far so good, matching up the notches. These pieces fit in pretty nicely, but you will have to trim around the curve, which I will do shortly. See how the clips are going in one direction on the side that I just finished, and the other direction on the side I'm doing now? You really have to pay attention to which way your fabric is going, especially if there is not a clear right or wrong side. So what happened here is my fabric looks the same on both sides, and I didn't realize I was clipping it in the opposite direction. And I'm so proud of myself for getting all those clips on and clipping my curves, and I just didn't pay any attention to direction, and there you go, just sewed it all together. I'm using my Singer heavy-duty sewing machine. I've had that for about 3 months. It replaced my Kenmore, which I still have, and I feel like my Kenmore, which I bought in 2005, actually is a little more heavy-duty than this heavy-duty right here. This machine does feel a bit rickety at times. There you have it. Can you see my mistake? I had to unpick all of that off camera. All right, that's better now. The next step is to pin the bodice front to the skirt front. And this time I'm being much more careful, making sure everything is lining up and the seams are going to show up where they're supposed to. I think I got it right this time. But this step is fairly easy. The bodice should line right up to the front. It's a bit tricky where the V is, but if you just mush around the fabric, you should be able to get a great fit. Back to the very exciting part of the sewing machine, which you can't really see what I'm sewing, but trust me, the bodice is now being attached to the skirt. See that? Everything looks good, mostly, except that little part there was a little hard to get straight. Ooh, and look at me go. So these are the mid bands that will attach the back bodice to the back skirt. There is the back bodice right there. All you do is line up the mid band piece to the back bodice. There's a little bit of gathering that you do, and here's where I added 2 to 3 inches. This is where I failed. But basically this goes on much like a cuff, so if you've ever put a cuff on a shirt or a collar, you basically just sew the top midriff on the bodice, and then that same midriff you will actually sew the skirt onto the bottom half of that. More exciting long distance sewing going on. Ooh, here I come. I'm back. All right, so now I'm checking the other one. I did that off camera so that I got it right, and I get a little nervous when I'm filming a new pattern, so I generally wanted to practice the more complicated parts off camera. So then you just take your skirt bottom, the back half, I believe, yes, I am putting in some gathering stitches. The skirt needs to be gathered into that midriff section. Not a lot of gathers because that's where I added my extra seamage. If I hadn't have done that, there would be many more gathers right there. Pulling it all together.
So I ran out of batteries while I was filming this important step. If you're following along, this is actually the part that confused me. I didn't quite understand how to get this middle section attached to the front and back, and it turned out it was pretty easy. All you do is you attach the middle section to the bodice, and then you attach the middle section to the skirt after you gather it. My gatherings aren't so hot, but that's just how I roll. And then the second middle section you attach on to the back, and what you have to do now is you hand sew it together. So you use a slip stitch to hand sew it together, and that's so you won't see it on the front. So once it's done, it'll be pretty neat. I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera because that's really exciting to watch somebody hand sew not. All right, be back.
Well, I'm back, and now I'm working on sewing it all together, sewing the shoulder seams and the side seams all at once. So this is almost done. Racing along in quadruple speed. I think if we actually could move this fast, it would take all the fun out of sewing. I like a little more of a leisurely pace. I think I also serged everything. Looks like it. Just working on the final seams. The sounds of the high-speed serger. A fitting that you can't see very well. I did not figure out it was way too big for me, or I could have made an improvement right here.
That's enough for day one. I think it's turning out pretty good. Day one is done. I have to... Okay, I stitched the front and back together. I need to stay stitch the neck. Wait a sec, I gathered it already. How does that work? So tomorrow I have to put in the zipper. And the facings on the top. So I'm almost done. Sleeves will be easy, not sure about the facing, and I've never put a dress zipper in, so this is gonna be fun. You'll see this in a flash, but I won't because I'm going to bed. Night. Day two. I have never put a zipper in before, so what I ended up doing is I have a bunch of zippers. So I picked one that didn't fit, and I hand sewed it in because, well, let me find it. When I have never done something, I just find it easier to actually hand sew it in instead of fussing around with the machine and the zipper foot. This really helps me understand how the garment is put together. So that's what I did. Here is the zipper. I had a short one. It calls for a 22 inch, but this is all I had. And my plan is to put a hook and eye at the top. Even the instructions have you put a hook and eye in the collar, but for me that's just going to be a little bit farther. I think that's fine, but it works. I can open it and close it. My bands line up pretty well, and so I'm perfectly happy with it.
Future me says I'm not really happy with it.
I just have a little bunch of little stitches all down either side, so that worked for me. Next up is the facing, so I'll go ahead and start the next section. Come on.
So this basically goes on like a collar. You interface one side, you sew those two pieces together, and then you come back and you sew the other two pieces together of the interface variety. Future me feels a little bad about present me because I still think this dress is going to be phenomenal, or at least kind of nice. I'm even making an effort to clip off all those random threads that are everywhere. And ironing. Oh yeah. So you have to iron up your seam allowance right there. Actually, you do it on the interface. So right now, I'm just ironing out those seams right there, and then I will iron up the interface side 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. By the way, do you like my baby iron and my little ironing board there? I try to unplug it every time so I don't end up tripping again. And here's where I'm burning myself on that little steam engine while I turn it up. Man, that thing spits out some hot water. I'm putting the clips in so I don't burn myself. No other reason. Yikes. Now is the time to figure out which way the collar goes, and you basically sandwich your gathering right between that front and the back of the collar, which has previously been stitched together. So I'm just fixing my gathers, reading instructions, trying to pay attention. Oh, yeah, I stitch it together right now. So you stitch the collar together, the top portion, and then like I said, it's like a cuff. You stitch it together, and then you flip it around so that all you have to do is place it on the bodice. using my handy dandy chopstick to turn in those corners. Can you tell I don't like getting up to use a real iron? This little ironing board works perfectly well for little projects like this. Now I'm just pressing those seams flat so that when I install the collar, it lays nice and flat on the garment. Yes, trying to figure out right side to wrong side. I think I got it right. Or wrong, which is right. This is where I'm so proud of doing everything right. And it actually looks pretty good. Of course it doesn't fit, but we find out about that later.
All right, I did it. I made the collar. It's halfway decent. Now I have to hand sew. The next step is to slip stitch this inside. You just fold over the collar. Obviously I have some tucks to do, and then just hand sew. So I'm gonna go do that offline, and then it's the sleeves. We're almost done. Pretty simple sleeve installation. You gather from there to there, and then sew them together, and then put them on the dress. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. I know it's exciting.
It's day 3. Did you notice the t-shirt change? Did you also notice how I yank my sewing machines around when I want to use them? Just pull them out and push them back. Gives me most room on my table. I suppose I could get another table, but I do like having them close by, and it works for me. Now we have reached the fun process of making sure, oh no, I'm gathering the tops of my sleeves. And I think I forgot to sew them together, so I have to go do that in a minute. Yep, there I go. One thing I have done multiple times is to sew my sleeves on backwards or upside down with that seam showing. And this time I am very happy to say that I did not do it. So these sleeves turned out pretty well. I did like them. The biggest tip I can give about putting in sleeves is always do right side to right side. That's what I always screw up. And you have to do right side to right side, kind of underneath and inside the garment, if that makes any sense. Sounds like the dentist's office, doesn't it? My dog Jordan loves following me around. And why does it look like I have no neck?
You gonna follow me down the line? So I finished the dress. There's quite a bit I like about it, and there's quite a bit I don't like about it. I did like how the ruffle in the front, the gathers turned out, and I did not like the length. This length is not something I would usually wear. Maybe it would be okay with some thick stockings, but I'm not quite sure. Also, the material, I like the material, but again, I'm not sure if it was the best choice for this dress. I do think that the back is way too big for me. So in hindsight, I should have probably not added those 2 extra inches that I did. I don't think I needed to enlarge this pattern much at all. So I believe that's why this is extra flouncy. And also this waistband is really loose. So if I try this dress again, I definitely will try it with the right size and see if that helps. One thing that I would still need to adjust are the arms. Well, they are great. I like the poof. They're just a little bit, actually they're not too tight. So maybe I would keep it just the way it is, but I did put 2 extra inches in here in the top. So that's why there's a lot of extra fabric here, and I'm not sure if I like that. I think a smaller amount of gathers would have worked really well with this project. I will try this dress again, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make it into a dress. I do see that if I end at the waistline, it might actually make a nice top. If I just end right, where the hell is the waistline? If I end somewhere right around there. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. Bless.